everyone, welcome to another video. I'm John Bodine with Redemptive Psych, and today we're finishing up the last of the judgment cognitive functions, introverted feeling. Now, introverted feeling is, by Jung's own admittance, one of the most difficult functions to define of all 8. It's one of the most challenging to understand and to articulate, because even though it is a decision-making function, it exists in people perceive it and experience it in a almost mystical way. Now, Jung grouped introverted feeling with introverted thinking as 2 of the internal decision-making functions, as opposed to extroverted feeling and extroverted thinking, which are aware of how other people think or what other people value. Both the introverted feeling and thinking functions are about the subjective in terms of how this person processes the world, how you think about things, what that person values. It's not about collective, it's about individual. And for introverted feeling, the easiest summation of it is what I feel, what I value, and how I evaluate things. It's a combination of mood, emotional depth, a sense of one's humanity, but also a weighing out, a sifting of sorts in terms of deciding and what is valuable, and then using those principles to make decisions about what's worthy, what is worthwhile, and what is not worthwhile. Now, John Beebe in this book has a chapter on the cognitive functions, and one of the words that he uses to describe introverted feeling, or FI, is appraising. And I really like that because it sums up and demystifies some of the complexity of FI, in that it is an evaluative function. It's all about evaluating the worth of something from their own standards, whatever they happen to be. But it's a sense of worth about something, or a sense of not worth about something. In the TI lecture, I use a cheese grater to illustrate TI. FI is something closer to a sieve or a sifter. It holds different things, then it moves through them and separates what is worthy from what is unworthy, at least from their mind. What is good or reputable versus what is not good or reputable. Again, subjectively to the FI user's feelings. So again, FI is about internal feelings, a sense of depth, a sense of their humanity, and then the moral convictions, the moral principles that they live their life from, mixed with, as we said, an ability to evaluate things and weigh out the importance or the lack of importance in something. So which types use FI at all in terms of their top 4 slots? Remember, that is what defines whether someone is an FI or TI or an NI user, is if it is in their top 4 slots. These 8 types are what we call FI users, introverted feeling users, and they are arranged in the order of the ones who use it the most versus the ones who still use it, but not as much as the top ones. So the IFPs, the INFP and the ISFP, these are the types who use it in their hero slot. They're very heroic, very constant, very powerful, extremely sensitive with their introverted feeling, but they use it very strongly. Next is the FI parents, the ENFP and ESFP. They still use it a lot, they still use it often, but it's a little more restrained, a little more careful. And then the FI childs, introverted feeling childs, the INTJ and ISTJ, who are innocent, a little bit naive, sometimes self-important, but sometimes very loving and compassionate and giving in ways that other types have a hard time competing with. So those are the FI childs. And then lastly, the FI inferiors, the ones who are really worried about their self-worth and feeling useless and feeling unworthy. Those are the ENTJs and ESTJs. Now, quickly, there are types who are not on this list who, though FI is not in their top 4 slots, they still have some access to it. So I don't want you to hear that, oh, just because you struggle with self-worth, that means you're an FI user. Not always the case. And we'll continue to discuss why that may be in later videos. But again, these are the main 8 types. So what are introverted feeling, what are the strengths of an introverted feeling user or of FI as is? The top and most obvious strength is an ability to prioritize. If you're aware of what's worthwhile and what's not worthwhile, and you're able to sift through that, of course you're able to arrange things in terms of a natural hierarchy, in terms of what's important and what's less important. Next is gratitude. Because of the introverted feeler's awareness of their principles and the values and the emotion, they are sensitive to good things that other people do or good effort that other people put in. And they can express gratitude and genuine thanks for that. And that is one way that they build up and encourage people, is sharing that warmth. FI users, if you ever struggle with doubt about the value of your gratitude, it is extremely powerful. It's extremely potent, especially to us extroverted feelers who don't always really know if we're doing a good job or a bad job. Sharing that gratitude and that feedback can literally build up life in other people. You guys can be very grateful. Third is insight. Because of their evaluative nature and their unique way of sifting through things and processing things in a more, even though it's a decision function, it's a little more intuitive almost. Because of that, they can stumble upon insights in terms of understanding situations in nuanced ways, understanding the perspectives, and putting investment into helping people see what's really going on. A lot of good critics or movie reviewers or art critics or things like that, people like that, are FI users who understand the value of something and can see it and express it in unique ways. Next is, on topic of expressive, uniquely expressive. FI is an expressive function. It is a generative source in terms of generating emotion and nuance of humanity and teaching and education, all these things. FI users partake in this, and they are uniquely equipped to express the reality of a deep human experience almost naturally. Now, for some of these other types, like the ENTJ or ESTJ, that may not be as evident or as constant as an INFP, but it's still there. You just have to look a little more closely. The next one is sensitive. Now, you may notice I've put sensitive both as a strength and as a struggle. It's a double-edged sword, as I think most FI users know intuitively. But their sensitivity, even though it can make them feel powerless and like a victim to their emotions, it is also a source of power and expressiveness, being able to articulate the humanity of their experience. And it's not just about emotion. Sometimes it's about education. It's about distilling the information or their feeling into an idea or into a principle that they can invest into other people, and that those people can take it and use it for their benefit. So they can be very sensitive. Next, generous. FI, because it's evaluative, because it's about feeling and value, it's also a source of investment. FI users love to invest in other people. And so much of an FI user's relationship with generosity is going to be based on their life experience, on their nurture, and the relationship they have made with resources, whether it's money, time, service, whatever it may be. But generosity is a tremendous strength that all FI users have access to. Next is the struggles. Now, I know we just talked about you guys being sensitive, and I would rather skip this section, but I can't, because FI users do have struggles too, like the rest of this. The first one is confirmation bias. Because they have such a strong sense of feeling and value and an idea about what is good and what is not so good, they can use that value of, okay, I really care about this is important, right? This is important, that they will look at the world in a way that only confirms what they believe is true and may ignore other things, and that can be an issue for them. They can be prone to closed-mindedness because of that, because if they value something so strongly, they may not be open to that value being challenged or gathering input that would be counter to that. Next, and a little similar to confirmation bias, is feelings as truth, interpreting the reality and the inescapable power of the feelings and the depth that you experience, interpreting that as reality. I feel this, it must be true. I value this, it must be good. That internal monologue or dialogue for the FI user can be very challenging, because the presence of such strong and good emotions, good feeling emotions, or idealistic values feels so good and feels so right, but they can miss the reality surrounding those things, or have their eyes kind of glossed over of how that may not be true in the world. That's their second struggle, interpreting feelings as truth. Third, FI users have a proclivity to self-importance, partly because they're aware of how they feel and they want to protect this sense of worth and good emotion and sensitivity. They can project and idealize themselves in a way that may puff them up a little bit and may make them feel a little self-important. Just because something is a struggle doesn't mean it's bad. The battle of self-importance is not a battle everyone has to deal with, but through that battle it can generate something good. But it's still a struggle for many of your FI users to pump up yourself a little bit too much, right? Or value yourself as more compared to other people. And that's one way to test if you're pumping yourself up too much, is if in order to do that you are putting others down. If you are not putting others down, it's less likely that you're pumping yourself up. So that's the third struggle. And last one, like I talked about with the sensitivity, as a strength, it's also a struggle. Sensitivity. FI users can, because they're sensitive, they can protect themselves too much from reality or from some difficult truths, or just from the world, because they're sensitive to other people too. They have a proclivity to isolation to some extent, especially these top two types, and I would say the INTJ and ISTJ as well. So that sensitivity is a struggle for them because they may be unwilling to feel some of the unpleasant things that are necessary with engaging with the world and going through challenging things. And this battle right here of how they use their sensitivity is largely going to determine their willingness to engage truthfully with the world or to run from it. So those are their struggles. Lastly is FI growth. The first thing I would say for FI users, especially in light of their strengths and their struggles, for their growth is to learn and practice being grateful for correction that you may receive or criticism. There's that verse in Proverbs 1:7 that basically says that you're foolish if you are closed off to the correction from others. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. And FI users don't want to be foolish. They want to be the most brilliant and the most wise and those who are most capable of imparting wisdom to other people, especially the INFP and ENFP. That's their jam. Next is demystifying the feelings. There's that verse in 2 Corinthians 10:5 to capture every thought. The relationship between feeling and thought is very interesting for the FI users. There are often thoughts beneath the feeling that you may not be aware of. Learning to articulate the feeling and trace what has happened or what did happen or what you saw or what you thought of before that can really help you in deciphering the nature of your feelings. So learning to demystify that and grow aware of your thoughts is going to put you in a position to elevate your level of discernment and choose what to let in, what feelings to let in by saying yes or no to certain thoughts. And lastly, the test of healing. This one is big picture. This is the big time one. This is very consequential. FI users both have a struggle and a strength here in terms of the influence that their values and their principles can impart upon the world. A good example of this is Karl Marx, who is probably an INTJ. He is possibly something else, but just as an example, someone who says something, who puts forth a value or a principle, and people come to it. It's like a light in the darkness that people come to. The problem is sometimes that value can be like the buzz lantern that comes and fries all the bugs. And even though it feels good and it's beautiful in terms of its image, it can be destructive. So FI, introverted feeling, can build and plant a principle that's going to attract potentially the whole world or millions of people to inspire a new movement or a new idea or a new pursuit. That's very, very powerful, very dangerous, but also holds the opportunity for transformation. And the test of healing, I would say, is one of the best ways to determine whether that principle that's being planted is for growth or for destruction. What is the test of healing? Just because it feels right and it feels good does not mean it's helpful for other people. Does your principle, does your value build up healing in other people, or does it lead them astray? If people were to follow that with utmost conviction and devotion, what would happen to them? I promise you that some of these feelings, some of the feelings that other people or the values that other people live by are totally destructive, especially if they embody that as part of their identity. Which, guess what, FI users? Some of us FE users will just absorb your feeling and naturally live by it, sometimes unconsciously. So you have the opportunity to be very careful about what you invest in and what you value by trying to figure out, or trying to at least think about, is my value going to help people? Is it going to lead to healing, or is it going to send people into further destruction? And this is also a softer and, in my opinion, a wiser gateway into building a cohesive relationship with reality, especially for you INFPs and ISFPs, who reality can be a struggle for you to identify. Does it help people? Does it genuinely help people? If it does, it's probably more aligned with the truth and the reality of something rather than something that's self-deceptive. So the test of healing. Be grateful. Learn to practice being grateful for correction if you want to be wise. Demystify your feelings, at least some of them, and use the test of healing to evaluate whether a principle of yours is actually going to impact the world for something better or for something worse. All right, guys, that's FI, introverted feeling. That's the end of the judgment or decision-making functions. We'll continue with the next 4 functions, which are perception, which the intuition and the sensing functions, which in my opinion have more nuance to them and are a little bit more fun to talk about. So thanks for stopping by, guys, and we'll see you next time.